Do you know what absolutely drives me crazy when it comes to model airplanes? Those stupid fantasy models we keep seeing from different brands lately. I'm looking at you, NG models. I mean, look at this ugly Korean Boeing 787 fantasy model. Do you know what this is?
Disgusting!
Another example are those gold edition models some brands like JFox are making. Honestly, who in their right mind is buying this garbage? My problem with those models isn't necessarily the fact that they don't exist in real life, but more so the subject matter itself. I'm absolutely on board with fantasy models, but there are much better options to be made than this crap. So in this video I want to share with you my opinions on which kind of fantasy models should be made, and I encourage you to write your ideas down below in the comments. With a bit of luck, some brands will see this video and your comments and hopefully listen to us collectors. I got the idea when I recently bought this roughly 1:400 scale Tintin rocket for my collection. I've always been a big fan of the Tintin comics, especially since there are a lot of different airplanes featured in it. Of course, this rocket never existed in real life, but it's a piece of pop culture many people have nostalgia for. So, why not look at some interesting airplanes and spaceships from famous movies to make into models? Personally, I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan, but I'm sure there would be plenty of options there for cool 1:400 or 1:200 scale models to be made. Or what about the giant spaceship from the movie Interstellar? I'm sure there would be many model airplane collectors and movie enthusiasts alike that would love to have the endurance in their collection. One of my favorites would be another Tintin model, the Carreras 160 supersonic business jet from the comic Flight 174 to Sydney. To me, this fictional jet was always super cool, especially with the F-14 style swept wings. I'd absolutely love to have this iconic airplane made in 400 scale, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. These completely fictional models would for sure be difficult to produce as they are rather unique, but with the advancements of 3D printing with resin, not impossible to make neither. The next category I'll be calling half-fictional models. Airplane and livery combinations that might have happened, but either the airline went bankrupt before receiving any of their aircraft, or maybe they cancelled the order. One example for such a half-fictional model that already exists is this beautiful Swissair Airbus A340-600. They had ordered these planes as a replacement for their MD-11s, but sadly went bankrupt in 2002 before receiving any of them. Still, I think it's a very cool model that gives us an idea of what might have been. NG Models also produced a batch of Malaysian Boeing 777-300s, the non-ER version, that the airline had originally ordered. Later on, Malaysia decided to convert their order to the improved ER version, and we never got to see the specific aircraft in their colors, at least not until we got this NG Models version. Turns out it actually sold quite well, showing us that there are definitely some collectors that are interested in these half-fictional models. Here I show you some other examples that could still be made in 400 scale and that I'm sure would be very cool. In the meantime, I want to ask you to like this video if you're enjoying it so far. It helps out the channel massively and I really appreciate it, as it really is a lot of work. Thank you! The last category of fictional models I want to address is probably the most interesting one. I'll call it the prototypes. These are concept aircrafts that sadly never saw the light of day. One such example would be the Boeing 2707, the American counterpart to the European Concorde and the Soviet Tupolev Tu-144. Especially the early concept was stunning. Unlike the other two supersonic airliners, the Boeing would have been a wide body with fighter jet style sweeping wings. Another such example would also be the early 777 trijet concepts. Could you imagine the 777 with 3 engines? I think it would have made it way more unique and cool. although they would most likely have fallen behind Airbus way earlier that way. Nonetheless, it would be super cool to have this piece of aviation history captured in a model airplane. I would definitely buy one. Other ideas for prototype models also include the double-decker Boeing 767 concept, the Lockheed C5 Galaxy passenger variant, and the mighty McDonnell Douglas MD-12, among many others. I'm certain that these kind of model airplanes would sell much better and be so much more interesting than the golden models we are currently seeing from some brands. This is how you properly make fantasy models. Take inspiration from famous movies or cartoons, or give us some cool prototypes of airplanes that never flew. So yeah, I'm all for it if we get these kind of fictional models. I'm certain that there is a market for them and they would also sell well. Of course, I also want to hear your thoughts and opinions on this subject. Which fantasy models would you like to see produced? You can write all of your thoughts down in the comments and I'll make sure to answer every last one of them. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Swiss400 for more interesting model airplane content. Feel free to also check out some of my other videos like the ones you see right here. With that said, I want to thank you for watching and I wish you a great rest of your day. Goodbye, aviators!